I got DC due to dragon riding too fast, and then I got teleported to Westfall dead, and then the boat wouldn't come the second time either.
Welcome back to another episode of A Seriously Casual Perspective, a podcast where we talk about World of Warcraft and whatever else interests us. I'm one of your co-hosts, Matt. Joining me today are my other co-hosts, Ben. Say hi, Ben.
Hi there.
And Brian. Say hi, Brian.
Hello.
And today, we're just going to be talking a little bit about the new expansion, Dragonflight. If you hear me call it Dragonlands, I promise that's not veiled in irony or supposed to be a joke. I'm just stupid. But I think a good place to start with Dragonflight, coming from Shadowlands, is asking you guys, is there anything that you're really excited to leave back in the Shadowlands? You left it in Oribos, and you walked away forever, no tears in your eyes, just a sigh of relief. Brian, is there anything like that for you?
Oh, Jesus. God, most of it?
I got a big one. You want me to take this?
Yeah, take it away.
Okay, so to start off, there's three eras of WoW, right? You've got the classic era from vanilla, original release up through Wrath of the Lich King, and then you've got the middle teenage years from Cataclysm to about Warlords of Draenor, and then you have what's been dubbed the Borrowed Power era, which is from about Legion to the end of Shadowlands, where classes and the game was designed where we were going to get these cool things, artifact weapons, legendaries, Azerite armor, covenants, all this shit, and then it was just going to go away. We were supposed to be completely cool with it just going away. I know borrowed power is a super big buzzword, but I am super happy to see that design philosophy gone in Dragonflight, and that we're just getting a good game in the box.
Noticeably, a lot of that borrowed power, or at least some of it, a lot of the stuff I cared about, ended up in my talent tree. So it was really cool to see buttons I like pressing, like Convoke, just kind of stick around.
I agree. I think that there's a lot of good stuff that were in these borrowed power systems. A lot of them, Demon Hunter is actually a really good example, right? Because that class was designed in the borrowed power era. So it was always a big talking point when we didn't know what its talent tree was going to be as to what was going to even be in there. And surprisingly, I think they kind of nailed it with DH, and they're a very interesting class. But getting back to having a whole package whenever I log into my shaman feels really, really good.
Yeah, so obviously I agree. It kind of feels and I know I'm still in the honeymoon phase for Dragonlance for sure. So maybe I'll change my mind in a month or two. But it kind of feels like they're actually learning. Blizzard's actually listening to what people want. Clearly it's one of those things where just give the players what they want. But players aren't game developers. Obviously some of us are, but you can't listen to every freaking player as if they knew what they're fucking doing about balance and blah blah blah. So listening to everything they want is a horrible idea, but you should listen to a lot of what they say for sure, and then decide to do what you will. So with the going away from all the covenants, all the systems, the big S word, and how they did legendaries and blah blah, how that's just in our talent trees now is really cool. They got rid of some of the stuff that didn't necessarily work, and they kept all the stuff that did work. And there are some things that are still super busted, priests still have mind games, which in PvP is outrageous.
I think for the most part, in terms of the core design, pretty much what I said, I think they've nailed that. But back to the idea of them finally listening, really quick. I think that there's a running theory I've seen floating around the internet that they were so deep in the pipeline, and the way that Blizzard designs WoW, they kind of knew from Battle for Azeroth that they were making some bad decisions, but so many of these decisions have already been made that it took them basically an entire expansion to right the ship, as it were, to get back to a spot that was good. But that being said, there are systems systems like corruption that definitely feel like one-off bad ideas that they kind of knew were bad, but they wanted to see what would happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And they just sort of tossed it away.
For things I'm glad to leave in Shadowlands, I'm very glad to leave the story behind that was in Shadowlands. It was just too big for its britches. It was trying to jam a bunch of nostalgic characters in there, and it just made me hate them more. I'm glad I can kind of wipe my hands away and just come talk to Dragon Mommy now.
My hot take about the story in WoW is that it has been irredeemable garbage with a couple diamonds in the rough since Cataclysm. I think after they ran through the Arthas storyline with Wrath of the Lich King, they were completely out of ideas, and it's all been trash ever since. Again, couple diamonds in the rough. I think the Thunder King story was really good.
Yeah, as someone who doesn't give 2/3 of a fuck about the lore in WoW because of that, so Shadowlands felt a lot like, how do I put this? They just like grabbed a bunch of A-list actors and kind of threw it at and see what happens. That's what it was like. It felt like one of those productions, like, well, let's see if we can just put like Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp together and let's just see if we can make some money.
Only other thing that I am kind of glad to leave back in Shadowlands, but a little bit sad as well, is Torghast. I love roguelikes and roguelikes, so I really enjoy getting to do something similar to Torghast, but I want to do it with my buddies. I'm playing World of Warcraft. I want to do multiplayer, and there were definitely times where it was fun to do, but the rewards were so limited, and they didn't really have a good grasp on what they wanted to give as rewards until later, like cosmetics and mounts and pets and whatever. And it felt very necessary because you were farming, resources to make your legendaries and stuff. So it felt like you had to do it, not that you wanted to do it. So it's kind of a bummer in that way. If anyone has been farming their Cobalt Assembly stuff, I get just a little bit of taste of it there because we get like kind of silly powers and our crit gets really high or our mastery or whatever stat we like. But I understand that a lot of people are probably thrilled that there is no Torghast currently.
I think that Torghast is probably the biggest. I'm going to say the second biggest missed opportunity that they've had in the past couple of expansions. I think the biggest one that they've actually whiffed on is Warfronts. And I think it's for the exact same reason. I think that they've put rewards that feel mandatory behind content that, honestly, like, it isn't perfect content, but it's pretty good. Warfronts were exceptionally bad. I think Torghast, underneath it all, was still good content. But because of that mandatory, you have to do this once a week feeling, now it's a chore.
The first time I went to Torghast, it was actually pretty. I mean, I would argue the first like 10 times I went to Torghast, it was pretty fun. Like, it was cool just becoming like this fucking death ball of damage or whatever, and that was really interesting. And then like you realized it was homework, and that's not fun. Like in the current Dragonlands philosophy, there's a bunch of stuff to do, but it's most of it is optional. Like even like hunting down these rares is optional. If you want to do it, sure, but if you don't, it's okay too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and if Torghast was introduced now, and or Torghast, something like Torghast was released right now, I think it'd be much better utilized. Like maybe not immediately because everyone's like, "Oh, Torghast again! Oh my god!" But like it's just the thought that it isn't homework anymore. It's just like another path of gearing or of X, Y, and Z or whatever it may be, would actually make it like you could go in and do it for fun.
I think Torghast is unfortunately in the same box that Garrisons are in.
Yeah.
Where they took a stab at something that people really like in other games and missed, but they missed hard enough that they can now never take another shot at it again.
No, I don't know about. I mean, Torghast for sure, but Garrisons, they just have to rename Garrisons. That's all. I mean, they can rename both, to be fair.
Yeah, I guess I was being a little bit hyperbolic when I said never, but they at least need to put a couple of expansions between then and now. They could probably try a player housing type thing with Garrisons after Dragonflight, maybe even during Dragonflight.
Yeah.
That's pure hope speculation, though. But they could probably get away with it, and most people wouldn't knee-jerk reaction to it. But if they tried Torghast in Dragonflight, it would immediately
it'd bomb. Yeah.
It could be the best piece of content ever, and it would still die.
Yeah, or it'd have to fight like it'd be fighting an insane battle to like break even.
So, since we all have fond memories of Shadowlands, it sounds like we all loved Shadowlands deeply and will cherish it forever as a memory we shared together. Let's move on to the fresh and the new, into Dragonflight. I'm very excited about it, but I have an awkward place to start talking about it. But it's the literal foundation of the game itself. How do you guys feel about the new UI stuff? Ben, I talk to you probably most about UI stuff, mostly in that I like copying your UIs a lot. what sort of adjustments did you find yourself making this time around, if any?
So I definitely tried to cut down on the number of add-ons I had doing minor things.
Same.
I've come back and I've re-downloaded stuff like Rare Scanner. That'll probably get uninstalled after this next reset when I'm not hunting rares regularly. But like Bartender is an add-on I used a lot. Let me move around my action bars. Let me move all that stuff around. And even though there is a use case I have for it right now, because if you've played, the bag bar in the bottom right can't be moved as part of the base UI. Blizzard, please fix. It still is useful, but I'm trying to stay away from as many add-ons as possible and keeping my weak auras package really simple. Just offensive weak auras, my resource, some defensive stuff, and that's it. I'm trying not to overload myself with information. If my Shadowlands UI ever gets out in the public eye, there's a lot going on in that UI, and looking at it now, it kind of makes me sick. It's a little too busy compared to what I've got going on in Dragonflight. So it's been really nice feeling like I can cut back because the game's picking up a lot more of the slack that add-ons did. But I'm also kind of gaslighting myself into believing that I don't need an add-on when there are certain situations where I should probably just go and download Bartender so I can move that bag bar.
Brian, what about you? Any changes? Oh, although yours might have changed a little bit too because you're back on Rogue instead of Holy Paladin for this patch.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. It cut down on Bartender's gone. I'm trying not to use Bartender anymore. Not because it's bad or anything, just because, yeah, like Ben said, just kind of go with the base UI, just play with that for a while. And I like all the how Blizzard decided to do their profiles. Like, it's a seamless change, like seamless swap from like one to the other, which I was surprised it would be so seamless, because Bartender is pretty seamless, but if you have like 2A profiles, it kind of like bugs out for a second. So I haven't hit that yet, thankfully. But switching has been very, very easy.
To jump in there really quick, it's actually been really nice. I've been playing with it. I don't have a finalized UI yet, but on my shaman, the times when I gotta heal, I want to set up a completely different profile so that my frames are, bigger and in a more important spot, because when I'm DPSing, I don't need to know who's in my group. But obviously when healing, I need to know a lot more. So being able to just have it change for me when I swap specs and it just works is a godsend. It really does feel like an upgrade without needing to download nonsense that probably has too much attached to it that I don't want.
Yeah, like I want to I think like my current UI is done, quote unquote. I just need to see what it looks like in raid, because I mean, as the raid leader, I have a lot of nonsense on my screen. That's obviously important, but it does feel very cluttered at times. So I'm expecting it to take about 2 or 3 weeks, or 2 or 3 raids, for me to be able to do my raid UI. But with just Blizzard stuff, it's like super easy to do. So I'm actually very excited for that.
I have also been trimming down a lot of my add-ons, my weak auras and stuff. There's a couple I got rid of that I'm really trying to give base Blizzard UI more of a chance. Like, I got rid of Grid 2, but I'm healing a lot more this patch, so there are a lot of times where someone gets like a debuff and the base UI just isn't telling me. Like, it's got this one tiny 2-pixel wide blue swirly in the top, and I'm like, I don't even know if that's the one I should be dispelling right now. So I have to like look, and with Grid it was all nice and set up. So we've definitely made a huge step in the right direction with the UI, but I still find myself kind of using other add-ons and stuff as a crutch.
Yeah, I'm expecting like next expansion, or rather just as time goes on, that they'll keep adding more options to do stuff like that, and just to eventually eliminate a lot of these add-ons. Because like, yeah, Grid is like, once you set it up, it's unmatched. There is nothing with that much customization. I guess there are, but like, once you set it up, like, why the fuck would you go do anything else? You spent so long to set it up perfectly for you. But yeah, eventually I hope Blizzard will have more options with that screen, because I do like how it looks. There are some options that the Blizzard Grid has that the add-on Grid doesn't do. So I'd like, in my perfect world, is a combination of both. So yeah, we'll see what they do about that.
I complain about it a lot, but I installed Grid back in Shadowlands purely because then I wanted my raid frames to be horizontal. And if I wanted them to stay in groups, the Blizzard frames would put this little delimiter between the groups of just telling me what group it was, but it added this horrifyingly ugly space.
Yeah.
And it infuriated me so much that that was the only feature that made me download Grid. And I think a lot of those little nagging issues have been fixed. Again, there's a couple. I'm going to keep pointing at the bag bar because I think it's one of the most... maybe there's something spaghetti about it that I don't understand, but I feel like you could easily add an option to let me move that.
Yeah, because also, like, the bags. If you don't have a bag add-on, you can't move the damn bags. And while for most people I'm sure that's fine, I need to be able to move my bag across the screen for when I'm, like, you know, making reagents for the bank. Or mats for the bank.
It sounds like we all kind of either specifically uninstalled or specifically kept installed bag-based add-ons or bartender to, you know, cope with Dragonflight's UI. But are there any other add-ons that you guys found where you're like, oh, this is a necessity for this specific expansion? Like, I didn't need this before, but now this is clutch.
I don't have one that I didn't have before. Most of my UI experience, I actually did the fresh reset. I put my old UI in a little folder and then uninstalled every add-on and then reinstalled new ones based on what I needed. I tripped on a couple that I didn't have, but I don't think I chose them just because of Dragonflight. I think I chose them just because I didn't know they existed previously.
Yeah, I don't think I added anything new. The only thing I added that was new that I didn't have in Shadowlands was Rare Scanner, but I've used Rare Scanner in the past. So,
well, was there anything else that you guys like had installed that you're like, well, now I'm definitely glad I have this? Like, you know, stuff that really felt like it was starting to stand out more.
Weak Auras is always that one, right? Like Weak Auras has been nerfed multiple times because this add-on is unbelievable. I mean, seriously, go watch Method's Mythic Archimond kill from WoD. That ugly mess of lines on the screen is all a Weak Aura, and that fight caused them to break the code for how Weak Auras works because it was too strong.
Yeah,
that add-on is absurd. It's unreal that add-on even exists.
When people say or complain, rather, it literally plays the game for you. Weak Auras gets pretty close.
It definitely before, but pre 19 nerfs, it was definitely like able to do the game for you.
There was an old add-on, Brian. I don't know if you had this installed back in the day, but it was, I believe it was like Rotation Helper, or it was Tell Me When was the one I used, where it basically was Weak Auras, but it would highlight the next button that the game thinks you should press. Like it would use a simulation to run, and it played your character for you. That's as bad as I think it ever got. Fortunately, that also was nerfed. So, I don't know. For me personally, my Weak Auras are all reminders. They're essentially action bars in the middle of my screen that aren't clickable.
Yeah, if Blizzard just gave me about 34 more action bars, I wouldn't need most of Weak Auras. Because I can just move around action bars. Well, speaking of the UI and action bars, I want them to be a little more customizable. I want, like...
Action bars, you mean?
Yeah, action bars, sorry. I want them to be just a little more customizable, because you can do almost anything, but you can't get rid of every tiny gap. When I was using Bartender still, one of my bars had like no gaps at all. It was like the icons were enlarged even, so there was literally no spaces, and I really like that like feel. And I can't do that with the base UI, so that's kind of annoying. Now that I'm thinking about it.
That's a good point. Weak Auras is actually a little bad about this in its base settings. You can fix it with some fiddling, but I don't know what this is with like a lot of graphical displays having weird spaces and gaps between it. For me, it just looks bad.
Yeah, most cases or most of the time, it just takes up a little more space, man. My real estate is it's very precious to me. So like having all these little tiny spaces.
Something that I haven't had to download any add-ons for, and I refuse to at this point because I still think it's too fun. And I hate to change the subject, but dragon riding, man, I can't not talk about dragon riding. I love dragon riding. I'm sure a lot of people also love it too. But I heard people are like, oh yeah, there's there's this add-on or this weak aura where it tells you like your trajectory and the idea.
What the fuck?
Heck with all that, man. I'm just here to cruise, man. I'm loving this. What about you guys?
There's a long-running debate that a fight that Blizzard's been having with the player base is when they invented flying in BC and gave it to players. That was mostly a solution to fix the fact that flight points sucked, but BC also fixed flight points. So they've been struggling to design zones with flying in mind, which is why they keep trying to take it away from us and give us Pathfinder to like placate us later on.
Yeah.
That feels like they invented something so convenient I don't ever want to give it up. Dragon riding feels like they've invented heroin and now I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Because I hate flying when I have to go back to Azeroth. Like if I have to go to Uldaman and fly there, I am miserable. Because I don't get to play with the fun, really fast dragon riding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like mad about it. Like I'll port to Stormwind. I'll get on the mount out of the Mage Tower, and then I'll hit 4, which is my upward sky move, and then I don't go anywhere. I'm like, cool. I forgot where I'm at. Nice.
I'm all for it. Like I love the system. What I'm worried about is in an expansion from now, if they can't figure out how to implement it in the rest of the world, which I'm gonna hope that they can.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
You can't take this away from us now.
Yeah.
It's also just so much faster. Speaking of weak auras, there's a weak aura floating around that will actually tell you how fast you're going.
Whoa.
I believe Dragon Riding caps out at 1,500% move speed.
Yeah.
Where when a flying mount caps out at 410% move speed, it's not even comparable how much faster you get anywhere with Dragon Riding.
Wait, how do you get to 410?
It's 310 plus your base move speed. Is that not how it calculates it?
Oh, is that? Oh.
I might be wrong. It might just be 310. That's a good point. I need to go test that now.
I always thought it just was like, this is the percent move speed you're at, as opposed to 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, it might be that way. In any case, then that's doubling my point, because now you're slower.
Yeah, now you're even slower. Damn it.
Funny thing, and I can't wait till I read a forum post about this, I don't believe that On a Pale Horse from Death Knights or Crusader Aura from Paladins works with Dragon Riding.
Such a shame.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, how are they ever going to get anywhere now?
Yeah.
How do you think I feel? I'm a druid, and everyone's mining and urban off their mounts with the new profession systems. Well, we'll get to that later, though. I'll be grumpy about that later.
Bro,
okay, real shit
devalued druid flight for him.
Ruined, unplayable now. Unplayable.
Real shit, though. I am going to die mad because they also gave Glide to Evokers, which is cool. I'm glad. But why does a mashing spacebar make them move faster than Ghost Wolf on my Shaman? Why do they just get to have Ghost Wolf by mashing spacebar? Demon Hunters have it, and now Evokers have it. I already have almost no mobility. Please, just let me move.
Hey, they gave you Gust of Wind. I can't.
You know what they did? They tossed a shekel my way and told me to go buy something nice with Gust of Wind. Actually, though, I as someone who's played Shaman for a long time, Gust of Wind only being around in Legion felt terrible through BFA and Shadowlands. I ended up getting into an argument with a guildmate back in Legion, claiming that Shaman was mobile because they have Ghost Wolf. But when you're in Ghost Wolf, you can't press any of your buttons.
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, I can get there a little bit faster than you, but I don't get to like press a Frost Shock or anything while I'm on the way. So, no.
Yeah, so that doesn't count. Sorry.
Most of my complaints are actually the thing that really took it away was giving Spirit Walker's Grace to Shamans in general. Now, in Shadowlands, they gave it to Ellie, which was big, but now you can take it as enhancement, but you're kind of wasting the talent point.
Mm-hmm.
But still, having that back is really huge. I actually do feel incredibly mobile on every class that I've played. I think they've added a lot more general utility in Dragonflight.
For Dragon Riding specifically, I think we kind of spoke to this a little earlier. I have really enjoyed the talent system, the glyph talent points or whatever they have for them. It was really satisfying that if I really wanted to, I could just go do them, bang them out in a half hour. Like I could turbo the game, get everything done, and be able to use it whenever I want. But it was also nice knowing that, you know, I wasn't going to show up to raid in 2 weeks, and you guys weren't going to look at me and go, "Well, did you level up your dragon riding the whole way?" Like, it's just not going to happen. So it's nice to have fast as the game like that, where it's like, oh yeah, if you really want to, you know, spam it, go ahead. Like, do it in a day. Or just do it at your own pace. Level, take your time, do all the zones you want to do, skip what you want to, grab some dragon riding power-ups on the way, have fun.
On that note, one thing I noticed is that basically every quest in Dragonflight is designed for you to be able to do it without dragon riding. The ones that are explicitly about dragon riding being excluded. But there was a side quest I was doing in Baldrazes where it gave me a little taxi, like a little rocket, to ride up the mountain. But it always lists optional next to it because you can just get on your dragon and fly up there.
Yeah.
So I like that the game is designed without dragon riding being a requirement, but that dragon riding instead simply makes your life easier.
Yeah, having I always obviously like scream that having options is good, and even if one of the options like, a lot of problems that like MMOs like do is like power scaling, right? Like eventually, like to release a new thing, it has to be the rank 1 best thing ever, otherwise it's like worthless, right? RuneScape has this problem immensely, but that doesn't need to be the case. Like, for instance, right now, like you were saying, you can just use like the fairy system. You just like right click this portal and go whew, and then boom, you're at the top instead of needing to call your dragon and do it yourself. Sure, it's slower, but you don't do it yourself, so like that's fine. And flight points, there are so many flight points all over this damn island that if I wanted to like go like make food or go to the bathroom instead of like flying there with my dragon, potentially like going into a fatigue zone, I just like go to the flight master, hit the button, and then leave still, just like flight paths were designed to be before. And that's great. Like, so it's like someone's saying the flight paths are worthless now. Like, no, they're fucking awesome. Like, flight paths are still amazing. Like, they don't need to be the fastest way to get there. Like, it's okay. Calm down.
Yeah, it's not even that they're useless. It's that their old purpose is useless, right? Because like they're no longer the fastest way from point A to B. Not even close. But they do still have a use. It's just different than what it was before.
I kind of hinted on it, talking about being able to farm from your mounts, but I don't know how much you guys have explored the new profession systems, but I have been really enjoying it. It feels really satisfying that I can take alchemy along with both of you, and we can all sit there and kind of plan it out. Like, I feel like I'm a kid again, where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do the potion one, and you do the flasks one, and you do the one where you can transmute better, and that way, you know, you can help me, and I can help you, and we'll all help each other. And it feels like we're all still useful, but we're all doing the literal same profession. It feels like they added kind of almost specs to professions. I'm hoping that eventually you can max them out, because I like, just for completion's sake, just sort of maxing out all the little skill trees and stuff, but I've been having a blast with them. No pun intended from doing alchemy.
Boom.
What about you guys?
As our officer team, professions have been an interesting experience, to say the least. Because obviously I don't know about obviously, but we provide every consumable for our guild and our raid team. So I still want to do that, obviously, but trying to do so with like just us three is nigh impossible at the moment. Like, because of all the specializations, and if I had infinite time, like if I was actually a kid again, I would like, this system would be like absolutely perfect. Like, this is like, it'd be amazing. But from that perspective, it's been kind of irritating. But overall, I approve. The only thing I don't like about it is the quality of like reagents and shit like that. Mm-hmm. Like, that's like, right, because eventually everyone will just have like 3-star. Eventually, will that make the 1-stars useless? No, they'll still be useful, of course. So they're not going to be like wasted space or anything, or wasted like in the world, but they are wasted in your bags. So I don't need 3 slots for 1 herb, and especially because there's like what, 12 different kinds of herbs or something.
There are a lot.
So that's pretty much the only gripe I have with it at the moment.
I gotta be honest, the system is totally arcane to me. I am already somebody who wasn't super into professions to begin with, and I'm usually never into crafting in any game. unless it really grabs me in some specific way. But it'll take me a long time to get into it. But the current way with like knowledge, I think it's totally arcane. I'm reading moon runes. I got absolutely nothing. If you asked me to explain it to you, I'd leave the room.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is. Again, I welcome the change. Before the professions were very boring before, but now you could like. This it kind of goes back to. I mean, it goes back to what Matt was saying. Like, if you feel like you're a kid again, you work with your buddies to like get X, Y, and Z, right? But also, you could like make a character who their whole identity, and you could like play it as your main, like is they're an alchemist or whatever, and then you could be like in theory. Assuming the community, exists the way that it did in the past, is you could have like this guy. Like, this guy's the enchanter. He has all the enchanting stuff because he went down like the weapon tree. So like while all the other enchanters can get the same weapon enchant, this guy went down the talent tree so that he has like the best weapon enchant because it has like the highest quality or whatever. So you might, at least in like early in the expansion, you'll be able to like be that guy for X, Y, and Z professions, and that's really cool. I really like that.
That sounds super sick, and everything looks like that's what it's going to be. And I think actually that does help with our problem specifically, where we don't have infinite time and just doing it as us three is kind of rough. We can just pay the people who are doing it.
Yeah,
because everything's sellable. You just like that's how they're going to make their money. Which, a note I'm going to address briefly, I feel like I am making huge amounts of money, way more than I have in the launch of any other expansion, except maybe WoD with their mission table. Whoa. But just farming a little bit, doing some quests, there's just a lot of gold floating around.
Yeah.
I think my gold income has definitely slowed down a lot, but my typical gold income was BOEs. From past raids, and I am all tricked out on my druid. I think I have every transmog from Legion and from Battle for Azeroth all maxed out on like mythic difficulty. So I don't have a huge reason to go back in there that often on my druid, and that's the main I play, so I'm not seeing that big income from just kind of lucking into some shoulders, some edgy demon hunter once or something, or some monk shoulders or something. But I definitely feel like I've been able to be a lot more loose with my money. Like I've definitely spent a ton, and my wallet has been unaffected from just selling some herbs here and there or doing some work orders or something.
You mentioned it, actually. I forgot to bring it up. The work order system is actually one of the few things I do understand about the new profession layout. Holy shit, that system is so good.
It is so good.
Love work orders. The idea that I can target at my guild, I can target a specific player, like that guy, the weapon enchant guy, I can send that guy a work order if I know who they are. So the idea of like server celebrities coming back is very exciting to me. And then also, if I just want something quick, I just make it a public order. Whenever I leveled my Demon Hunter as my second character, I couldn't find crafted boots on the auction house. They weren't just ready. I just put in a work order. I had the crafted boots in 3 minutes. Cost me a little bit of extra gold, but I think that's more than worth it.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially because you can again make like that could be your thing. You can literally log in and be like, I'm the blacksmith, so I'm gonna go just do everything I can. Like their main game is to be a blacksmith. And you can do that again. Like that's rad. Like you can raid just for blacksmithing recipes and shit like that. Sorry about what you're saying.
No. I agree. I think it's so cool that you can like log in and be a guy. Like it's also really cool that we can, if Brian needs something done in jewel crafting, he doesn't have to sit there and scratch his head and go, I think maybe Matt's Evoker was a jewel crafter, or maybe it was Ben's Demon Hunter. No more of that. You post the work order right in the guild, then any guild it can be like, ooh, I can be useful. Yeah, I have that recipe. Let's get these made. We need a bunch of crit haste gems. Cool, I'm on it. It's so cool that we can like commission our friends to do this thing and like, I don't know, almost keep the money in the family essentially. And
yeah, absolutely.
And we get to level up our profession and we get a cool thing. And I don't know, it feels like we're It feels like we have a big way to re-strengthen the bonds of the community, and I'm just hoping that people with bots don't ruin it.
Yeah.
True. I think they've taken enough effort against botting in the past that we're not going to have to worry about it. But one of the bad things that I've noticed, particularly with options, that being files, which were flasks, files and flasks, they're the same thing.
Yep.
Potions, food, enchants, all of that. There's so many different kinds of them. The problem is that I feel like rather than engaging with the fact that there's a bunch of different kinds, I'm just looking up a guide and being like, I don't know, what does Shaman want? Cool, that one. And I don't even read what it does. I just pick it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you go.
Go ahead.
You go.
I was just gonna say, what professions did you guys pick? I did herbing and alchemy. So
I am, as always, an alchemist and an enchanter, and it's pretty cool. I like them.
I was paralyzed by choice, so I am mining and herbing.
fair enough. What were you gonna say, Brian?
I think like Matt referred to earlier, like the meth lab is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
He's like
The meth lab has become a running joke where so someone will just yell in guild chat, put a bunch of A's or whatever, and it's just like, oh, their meth lab blew up. All right, makes sense because their little experiment table almost killed them.
Yeah,
it does a lot of damage.
Yeah, it literally takes you to 1. It's fucking hilarious. So I it's the only way to level as well, like up to a certain point. So you like need to be doing it. You can't just like not go for it. And to be fair, it's also very cheap to like do the experiments. Overall, I think it's a great thing they added. With that being said, I keep going. I'm actually specializing in the advanced file so I can do it faster. So my 4-hour cooldown is now a 2-hour cooldown.
Same with potions.
Dude, it's so good. And now you get like the spree of like you get like 6 experiments in a row, like, oh, hype, and then you explode and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I got 6 out of it. But then the next like 4 times you get like 1 shot and you don't get any experiments done. You're like, all right, cool. I guess it all evens out.
Guess I'll go fuck myself.
Yeah. Enchanting's been interesting because there's nothing like that. Like the only way for me to level my enchanting now is to make, obviously like the best enchant I can. But with prices still kind of wild, it's like still like 20k to make an enchant. So I don't want to do that for obvious reason. I am just like, if the prices are good, I just like make it and sell it off because I know prices are gonna be like, especially with like first raid coming out 4 days or something. Like, dude, prices are gonna skyrocket. So I'm gonna be selling off a bunch of those and then just to recuperate gold and then just to make a good fund for when we as a guild start providing everything again.
Yeah, on that note, I've actually been stockpiling.
Yeah.
Hoping that the prices do spike on Tuesday.
Oh, they absolutely will.
When the realm resets and the raid comes out, because they're gonna only stay up for a couple of days before they just take their inevitable pretty steady curve downward and then settle at whatever price they're gonna be more or less for the rest of the expansion.
Yep. Yeah, it'll go up like just like, and that for anyone out there trying to make gold, every expansion, every tier, sell every raid map possible on the first few days of a raid drop or a tier drop or an expansion drop or whatever it may be. Every single thing, just sell it. Like, oh, you may need this later. Yeah, you probably will. Just buy it back later for half the price. Like, that's like, if that is the laziest way to make a metric fuck ton of gold in this game. Like, oh, but how do you get all this stuff? Well, after everyone's done raiding, like a few weeks before, you're a few months into the tier, most people are done raiding. So then prices are like really low. Buy a bunch then. It's like, think of it like, here's a scary buzzword, like think of it like stocks. Like buy low, sell high, right? Same idea. Literally the exact same idea. Invest the stuff that you like believe will be good, and chances are they'll pay off. They have not failed me every tier I started to, every tier I did do it. So
yeah, we're on expansion number 9, and it's been true every single expansion release.
Yeah, it's like people are impatient. Like I was on the other side before. Like, oh, like day 1, I want to make sure I want a flask for the raid, but instead of preparing early, I do it on raid day like an idiot. So then I have to pay a premium for it. So Same thing.
Overall, I think talents look good, but I'm apprehensive and excited at the same time somehow to see where they go further down the expansion. Like I said, I really hope we can fill out more of the tree a little easier. I hope that it gets easier to level it up as we go down the expansion, so that way, you know, if we have an alt that we want to gear up and get a profession on 2 patches from now, maybe it's a little bit more forgiving than it is now. But I'm perfectly fine with them pumping the brakes for now and just saying, you know, take your time, like pace yourself. You can have as much as you want, but let's be smart about it. So
yeah, there's still like so many secrets that people know about. Like usually an expansion is figured out before the raid even drops. This one, there's still new things happening,
which is exciting.
It's fucking great, and I like. Oh, it's just so good. I'm very excited.
This expansion launch, and Brian mentioned it, but I fully agree. We're definitely still in the honeymoon phase. Is the most fun I've had playing WoW, probably ever.
Yeah, it's up there for sure. And the best part for me is that like I took a week off vacation to play the damn game because I expected to need to do that effectively to like get ahead and stay ahead. But no, I spent 2 days of my vacation not playing WoW because I didn't need to. Like I was done, and that felt so good. Like it's because that helps prevent burnout. That's literally just good for the community if you can like log off for a few days and not feel like that you're missing out on all the homework that you've missed, kind of thing.
I'm definitely guilty of staying up way too late on the very first night of release. I also took the majority of that week off. I don't remember when everyone was up till, but I was up till 5 a.m. my time because I just wanted to hit 70 first, not on the realm, but just like I just wanted to see it in the guild.
Yeah,
I did that through nothing but skill. It was all me. It wasn't that almost every single one of you was getting terrible, terrible disconnects to the point where the game was unplayable for several minutes at a time. It was all skill. I planned the route. Don't ask me why it took 12 hours instead of like 5 or whatever the speed run was.
That's, you know, I got DC due to dragon riding too fast, and then I got teleported to Westfall dead, and then the boat wouldn't come the second time either. Dude, that took me out for like 3 hours.
I think launch night was pretty brutal. I think for the most part, though, every other bug I've been able to excuse. It's like, well, one, it's an MMO. They're always filled with bugs. And 2, it's an MMO that just launched. So like,
yeah.
Nothing's been game breaking, but launch night was brutal. It was really hard to keep playing. It's probably the first launch in a while that I've actually logged out before hitting max level.
Yeah, same.
Usually I like to kind of Iron Man it and go from 60 to 70 in this case. But I think the boat was a particular thing because I remember there were about 8 of us, if I remember correctly, all standing at the docks, about 30 minutes before the expansion was supposed to set. And then 6 o'clock Eastern time, that's whenever the expansion launched for me, we see an NPC shows up, or maybe the NPC changed, I don't remember. The bar appeared above his head. That's like the boat's arriving in 5 minutes. And we're all patiently waiting. We're getting a little antsy. 5 minutes ticks down, and it just says the boat has an unknown arrival time. So we're just kind of staring at it, and like 20 or 30 minutes pass, and there's still no boat. Before eventually, what I think was a GM force spawning the boat to come and pick us up was kind of nice. Because one of the experiences I remember that we talked about a little bit was when we first loaded into the Dragonlands. There was a level like 62 or something evoker dragon riding next to the boat, but we were on the literal first boat from our server, so we're pretty sure that was a GM like making sure that the system was working.
Yeah, that was a really sick experience.
Don't forget they also idiot-proofed the other boat, so that anytime you ran on it, it would teleport you like 10 feet back, so that you wouldn't accidentally get on the wrong boat.
Oh, I didn't know about that. That's awesome. What?
It kept happening to everyone. It was happening specifically to people who were I believe level 60.
Yeah, they had like the
Because
quest, maybe.
why would they go to BFA, or like why would they go to this other place?
Yeah.
So I think it would register your level. Because some people were like, well, how am I supposed to get there if I'm leveling a character? Which, first of all, I'm not choosing BFA to level my character at this point. But yeah, people were saying like, yeah, I'm getting teleported right off. And I think it was just so you didn't accidentally commit to the wrong boat.
Yeah, it's because also like the GM spawning the boat. He had to, or they had to spawn like the same boat as the Borealis boat. The only difference was it was turned the other direction.
I haven't actually checked. Is it still the Borealis boat?
I don't know. I haven't. I guess I was on my priest a second ago, but I don't remember.
I'm gonna go look that up when we're done here.
Yeah. But like it was so funny because like when the boat just like materialized in, everyone's like, "Oh, it's the wrong boat. It's still Borealis boat." And then people get on the quest like progress like accomplishes or whatever. Everyone's like, "Oh no, it's the right boat." And then the boat was only there for what, like 15 seconds, like maybe.
It wasn't long.
And then it ported. It wasn't like it doesn't like right off. No, it just went poof. And then we all got a load screen. And then then we rode into the Dragon Owls, and it was that was the one fucking cherry on top.
Yeah, from that point it was all downhill because the bugs were pretty game breaking. But
yeah.
Honestly, I still had a ton of fun with this launch. Bugs aside, I think it was still great.
Yeah, still a good time. The best part about it was probably as the Alliance, because the Horde got on early.
Oh, you're right, because their boat had like no problems. I actually remember when I went to level my Demon Hunter, I did it on the second day, and the Alliance boat still wasn't working. I flew to Orgrimmar and like stowed away on their boat.
Lol. Among Us.
We kind of got to play with this a little bit before Dragonflight, but and we touched on a little bit. How do you guys feel about your new talent trees? Ben, you were kind of talking about your shaman one specifically. Did you have anything else to add to what you were saying before?
I'm going to preface this. I'm going to preface this by saying that I am horribly biased, but I think that shamans have the best talent tree in the game right now. I would say about half, I think it's like 6 of the classes, have throughput, like either bonus healing, bonus damage, or whatever in their class tree. Shaman has 2 talents that increase your damage done, and both of them are on the way to stuff you want and very easy to take. I think that all 3 of the specs, Resto is definitely the weakest, but Resto Shaman's having its own problems. But between Ellie and Enhancement, being able to smoothly transition between single target and AoE is phenomenal. Actually having choice that I get to make based on what I'm seeing from my group or the fight or the dungeon or whatever, taking Poison Cleansing Totem in Halls of Infusion, taking Liquid Magma Totem whenever I feel like there's not much movement. I love that level of decision making where I'm not just copying the same 6 talents from the guide and never changing them the entire expansion.
What about you, Brian?
Yeah. See, I mean, obviously I like it so far because the options are always great. And how do I explain this best? There are some talents for rogues that I really don't like. For instance, I can reprimand. I didn't like it in Shadowlands. I don't like it now. Thankfully, Outlaw the quote unquote best build for Outlaw doesn't take it, which I'm thankful for. I'm also thankful that the piano for Outlaw has taken some keys are gone. So it's not, I don't need a foot pedal to play this class efficiently. So I'm glad for that. There's I mean, talent trees feel good overall. Like all the utility options are really good. Like if you want, you have a raid utility now in atrophic poison ? Which rogues didn't have before. Rogues never had raid utility besides like tricks. so no, that's welcomed. I'm as raid leader. I'm not excited for the people to be like, I didn't take solar beam. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
great.
That's gonna be rough.
I think for the most part, raid content doesn't ever have these kinds of checks. I think that dungeon content is a lot more often where you're going to be like, oh, whoops, forgot to take my Dispel. I guess we're going to die this pull. I very rarely is there a raid fight ever that requires utility from your DPS that isn't stuff like the Roar from Druids that buffs move speed, or the Windrush Totem, or generic like healing like Ancestral Guidance or anything like that. But usually never do you need your DPS to have their Dispel ready.
Yeah. Yeah, so that'll be interesting.
I don't know. There are some things on the tree, for Druids at least, that I think, it's an interesting choice. Do I take Mighty Bash and stun stuff? Do I take Remove Corruption so that I can get rid of these poisons for this dungeon? Do I need to take both because we have a bunch of dangerous mobs and maybe I'm the only one who can deal with those two particular mechanics? But then there are other times where I'll look at stuff on my tree and I'm like, are you telling me I have to put a point into Hibernation? You know how many times I'm going to use this? Almost never. This it targets like two very, very, uncommon things. Granted, now that dragons are everywhere, fingers crossed. But it was just very strange. Like, yeah, I'm super cool with them taking some stuff, but other stuff, I'm like, you tell me I got to put a whole point in for this?
Yeah, there are definitely some things like that. There are also some things I'm surprised that aren't as like aren't like a guarantee. Like you must take this talent thing. Like for Outlaw Rogue, there's a talent that increases your attack speed with Slice and Dice for every combo point spent on it. And I was like, it's like 2% per. So you get like 7 combo points. That's 14% more attack speed. And most of the raid builds, right, or all of the builds, including Mythic Plus builds, don't have that talent selected. And I was like, that's really interesting. So I've been playing around with a couple builds that do have that talent selected, and I'm not sure if I like it yet. But it's like there's a lot of stuff like that that's like super weird.
To jump in on that, because I actually ran into a similar problem with Shaman. For Outlaw, like in that case, I think the main problem is that most of your Slice and Dice doesn't come from pressing the button as much as it does true. The Roll the Bones buff. So like that's why it's not good.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
Ellie Shaman's having a similar problem. We have so the weapon imbues for Shaman are a huge deal, like historically. But for Ellie, they haven't mattered in forever. For Enhancement, they're still a huge deal. So there's a talent to make your Flame Tongue good for Ellie Shamans. At least if you're playing the fire setup. But because it's not actually good enough, the consumables that you can put on your weapon are better than it. So it's still a wasted talent point because they don't stack. There's a couple weird I would call them lack of finish. Like it's not polished correctly.
Yeah.
Here and there. Overall, I think it's a slam dunk. They really killed it. But there are still some nagging issues. And I think for the most part, a lot of these nagging issues are made to be a lot bigger deal than what they really are because people don't actually have a lot to complain about.
Yeah.
Are there any big standouts for you guys of like, man, you tell me I gotta take this just to get to the good talent? Like, not even just like, oh, well, I guess I have to take the 2% buff to my stamina. Like, no one's gonna be that sad about it. It's a little lackluster, but it's still cool to get a stat buff. But I've definitely got some stuff on the Druid Tree where I'm like, I gotta take all this stuff for bear form. I only use that when we're doing like plus 20s for mechanics where someone tells me ahead of time, hey, I can't out heal this. Just pop every defensive you have. Like, is there anything like that for you guys where you're just like disappointed you even have to take this?
There's a couple of those, but this is where I think that I am correct in saying that Shaman has the best talent tree because almost every point where I'm like, why is this here? Either has a good reason. It's there as like a point budgeting system. Like it's so I can't just select everything that's good. Or the thing that's in the way that like I have to take to get the thing I actually want is good on its own. It's just like a generic passive. Like for instance, there's a talent called Ancestral Defense that just increases my leech and avoidance by 2%. That's pretty good. But it's also walling off the really good talents that are right after it.
Yeah, Outlaw Rogue has one that just increases stam. And if you look at it from like, how do I put this? Like just purely like not like the first layer of the onion kind of thing. You're like, oh, it's dumb. Like I'm a DPS. Why would I need that stamp? But because of that, it's kind of like in the fantasy, because outlaw rogue is the the swashbuckler, the what's in your face. You don't even like need to stealth as an outlaw rogue. Like it's like not that much benefit for you to even stealth. So like you're more like in your face. So you actually need that stam. Like that's kind of like class fantasy thing. And then the assassination and sub rogues, they both don't have that any sort of that talent, so their health is way lower because they need to be more like finessed with their like going in and out of stealth to like do damage and avoid attacks and yada yada blah blah. So if you look at it like first layer of the onion kind of thing, it's like, oh, that's stupid. But you peel back any like one other layer, like, oh, okay, that's actually really interesting. So I actually don't have a single talent that I can think of at the very moment I'm staring at the tree that I am upset that I have to take at the moment.
Something you mentioned briefly, Brian, but just to get it out there, a lot of people complained when these talent trees were first done. Like the first point in the enhancement tree is to select Storm Strike. It's been a core ability since Burning Crusade, and a lot of people will complain like, "Oh, I can't believe I have to waste a point on Storm Strike." It's not that you have to waste a point on Storm Strike, because the tree would be the same if you got one less point in Storm Strike baseline. It's just so that they can clearly say that enhancement shamans get Storm Strike, Ellie's and Resto do not. That's it. That's all that's there for.
Yeah, it's like before you hit your talent keybind and it's like, okay, assassination baseline gets these 6 moves. Well, now it's on the assassination tree. It's the same thing. It's just now that you have like you can troll and not take it, I guess. But that's
or even not trolling. There's actually some choice, right? Like on the Ellie tree, you can ignore most of your cleave options that are on the left side of the tree generally, to go for a completely different style of build, or you can like take a couple of points out of the single target stuff and go into a couple of the cleave talents, and now you're a little good at cleave. That's where I think that this talent system really shines, where the other one, which I thought was an improvement over like the classic talent design, kind of lacked, is that there was no nuance. The talents were very all or nothing because there were so few of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I'm happy that some stuff is there. It's a little bit of a bummer when I have to take something where I'm like, I feel like I'm never going to use this or it's never going to come up. But I understand why it's there. And for the most part, looking at my tree, it is exciting that I can't get all the cool toys. Like, it's really cool that I want them all. It would be a real big bummer if like every single guide I go look up or every single other druid I talk to is like, yeah, obviously I take all the good ones. Like, why would I ever take these literally terrible ones? It's so cool that there is so much choice, and it's not even, always just AoE or single target. Are you doing raid or are you doing M+? It really does genuinely feel like, well, what do I want to press? What buttons do I want on my bar that do cool things? And it's cool that I want a bunch of different buttons and I want to try a bunch of different combos,
Absolutely.
As for talents, they're definitely better than the most recent ones we had, where you're just kind of picking between a choice of 3. You get them every 15 or so levels, and some of them just don't do anything. Like, some of them are, I don't know, you're like 15% faster or something.
Yeah, like there's like they have lines of utility, like a whole rows of utility rather, but some utility you'll like never use in a PvE scenario at least.
Absolutely, and I think the most embarrassing part of the previous talent system were talents where there was no choice on the row. One of the main examples being Fire Mage, right? There's a talent called Flame On, gave you another charge of Fire Blast, and it made your Fire Blast cooldown lower. The power of that talent compared to the other two things that were on its row was laughable. You never even considered taking anything else on that row because it was just way too good. And then conversely, I believe it was Affliction Warlocks had the only one that lasted the entirety of Shadowlands. I don't remember the name of the talent, but it was a DPS loss for you to take this talent versus having no talent selected in that row at all.
Definitely every class I would look at Shadowlands and before. If something tickled my fancy that week and I wanted to try out, Demon Hunter or something, I would go look up a guide just to see kind of what people defaulted to, so I could see, like, what I want to do. and there were so many times where every guide was like, this option's fine, this option's also fine if you're not playing at like a higher level, like it's fine. This third option is literal garbage, and I think it's a personal attack on me if you take it. And that was every single row. Like every row was like, this one's the best, this one's fine. Don't take this one. You're doing yourself a disservice by taking this one. And granted, that would change from time to time with buffs and nerfs, but almost every class I would go try, if there wasn't just one viable option, there were only two, and you were genuinely hindering yourself taking the third, and that kind of stinks. And I don't feel like that's happening at all with this new tree.
Yeah. Before there were definitely talents that were like you were actively trolling for taking.
I think that there's still a couple that are like, why is this even on the tree? For the most part, they've trimmed them all down. There are still a few here and there. Demon Hunter has one of them where it buffs your Immolation Aura's like initial damage, I believe is what it does, and it just kind of makes no sense. And it does so little damage that you should never really take it. It doesn't block anything for pathing, but I think for the most part that's fine. Like Enhancement Shaman has Feral Lunge on its class or on its spec tree, but you don't have enough points to ever consider taking it. But I think it's still good that the choice is there. Like, I can sacrifice some throughput if I really feel like I need the extra mobility.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where like there's always gonna be those kind of talents for if you only play like one side of the game. Like maybe for PvP you do take Feral Lunge. Or something like that, you know?
Oh yeah, there are situations where there is an argument to take Feral Lunge, almost certainly. I think this talent system does a really good job of avoiding talents where it's like it is a personal attack on me that you take this. For the most part, that's not the case. There are definitely talent builds that are bad, but that's
absolutely
with this much choice, that's inevitable. You're going to get that no matter what.
I'm waiting to see like a class that has like the best DPS build, quote unquote, has like no keystones or capstones.
I can't think of. I feel like there is one, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I'm positive there is one or will be one. Like just like like some like tuning shit happens. Like the third tier of Shadowlands, all of a sudden rogues don't take anything in the latter half of the tree because the first stuff is so good. Everything's been nerfed or something, or everything's been buffed or something. Like whatever it may be, just like some absurd like meme shit.
Yeah, I think for the most part they have nailed it. Like generally, the further down you go, the better the talents get.
Yeah, a talent I really wish I got to use overall is improved between the eyes for rogue, because this is another gun move. And basically what it does is it does like 4 times the crit does like 4x damage or something outrageous. So
yeah, that used to be baseline for between the eyes, but like them bringing it back was sick, and then now you just don't get to take it really.
Yeah, now it's like never used. I say right now, I'm sure they're we'll see with tuning and all that crap, but it was always like a really satisfying move to like because it also the move also buffs your damage done to that target. So it was always cool to like, oh, I need to do a mechanic, turn between the eyes, pistol shot. Like, I don't care, I'm over here now. Like, no, it's a really fun ability.
I feel like for the most part, like looking at my tree, all of the ones where you get one of two options, I genuinely want both options for most of these in a good way. Like,
yeah,
I'm excited to try different combinations of different buttons, and a lot of them add something mostly interesting. It really doesn't feel like, oh man, why would I not pick this one option? Like, it's just so much better than the other one. Like, it feels like they did a good job of like picking what to put, to pick between.
Yeah, like the rogues have an option between cheat death and elusiveness. Elusiveness just lowers your AoE damage taken. Mm-hmm. It's like why would you ever take elusive? You like always take cheat death. Well, like there's a fight that you're like, that's if you can just dodge the mechanic, just fucking dodge the mechanic and then use feint. So like there are definitely gonna be times when I'm gonna take elusiveness instead of cheat death, just to like help alleviate some of the damage taken. And then obviously the other times where I can can I cloak this? Like, well, do I have cheat death on? I do. All right, cool. I'm gonna go see if I can cloak this.
Well, we've got all these new talents. Do you feel like you have had a better time exploring these new zones? How do we feel about the new Dragonflight areas?
I've got another hot take, and this might be the honeymoon phase talking. This is the best zone design in WoW ever, and it's not close. I think the second place goes to Wrath of the Lich King because they correctly implemented like flying mounts as part of the zones, and it's very nostalgic, right? You've got Ice Crown, Storm Peaks. It's all beautiful and gorgeous and everything. But the Dragon Isles are so beautiful and fun to just be in.
Yeah, I think that those are really good. I'm willing to give it second place.
What's
I think
first for you?
My first, I think, has to still be. I think it's Wrath. Like, and for the sole reason is that like for not like Wrath Classic is now you can enter everything because they're playing on the last patch or whatever. But like starting Wrath like halfway through is roughly when I started. You couldn't go to Ice Crown like that zone. Everything killed you. You can go like the camps and stuff like that, but there's always like an area that if you got to, it was like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here yet. Like, die. and then the mobs just kill you. So I want them to somehow have that in future zone designs. Whereas like say how do I put this? Like say the last tier of Dragon Isles or Dragonlands has like a like we go to another island or some shit like that. And it's just over there. It's a slightly west, but we couldn't see it or whatever. Like I would have wanted them to give us the island and make it kind of like GM Island, where like you can go there, but every single thing one shots you, and it remains a mystery. No one knows what it's for. Like it's like everyone like there's like all the people who are explorers will be like, I gotta know what's on that island, like what's on that cave. Like I see it on the map, I want to go, and that always leaves you like like a thing of mystery, and then they don't tell you for like a year and a half. Like you have no idea. They like may hint through it in the story a little bit. They'll like throw like you're in like the plains and like hey you guys, you walk by two NPCs and they're like, have you guys seen like the fog is cleared up? You guys have seen that island over there? Like what's over there? Like I don't know. We should call an adventure or something. And like I wish something like that currently existed.
I completely agree. I think that would be great. But also, I am still holding out hope that they could easily do what you just said.
Oh, absolutely.
With a Timeless Isle type zone. I think that the Dragon Isles generally are pretty like cheery overall.
Yes.
There's a lot of like fucking around to do in the Dragon Isles, which is a welcome change of place from the Maw and Maldraxxus, which
my God
were super hell and gross. But I really like how much of a change of pace this is, and I think that they have given themselves enough breathing room to rip that away from us whenever they're like, okay, here's your Timeless Isle zone. It's on fire, everything wants you dead, and you don't belong here.
Yeah, and your dragons are afraid to come here.
Yeah, like you have to learn new dragon riding to even get your dragon to go here.
Yeah. To do so, you must complete all the courses on gold.
Yeah, like something that, like, yeah, let me dragon ride there, but like it's a challenge, not just a I don't even want to say a barrier, but just a minor inconvenience is like getting the glyphs, right? It doesn't take long. It's not there to be a long-term challenge. But then later on, you can introduce these zones where dragon riding isn't the free fun activity that it is now. It is instead a dangerous activity that you have to engage in sparingly, or at least get severe or increased training to actually go to. I think that them being able to flip the script is going to be extra powerful here in Dragonflight just because of how cheery the zones are.
Yeah, I like the thought of like, yeah, the island is over there. To get there, you have to go through this like course, and you have to go through all these like all the rings to give you more like vigor or to more energy or to go faster. And if you don't make enough stuff, you like literally die. You don't make it to the island. And then once you get there once, like we've secured like a passage, and enough mages have gotten here, for lore purposes.
There's a portal.
There's a portal, or there's like or like some guy has trained, some NPC has trained enough dragons to like, okay, you can take this flight path here, but you have to come here first. Like you have to get here on your own first to like find me, to like, you know, be able to like, for me to be like, oh yeah, traveler, just give me 5 gold and I got you, I can smuggle you in, kind of thing. So I think something like that would be super cool, and I think it'd be a huge missed opportunity if they didn't do something like that, where like dragon riding was actually hard, like something you needed to do with it to get to a zone.
I mentioned earlier on that I really don't want them to take dragon riding away from me.
Please,
but thinking about it now, I do think it's actually an appropriate gut punch if they don't necessarily take it away from me, but they steal it from me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not that they're taking the bottle away from me and never giving it back because they don't feel like it, as much as this NPC took dragon riding away from you. Don't you want to go kick his ass now?
Yeah, and like, yeah, and eventually when we go back to the the old world, do we call it that? The other continents, if you will, and we can't use dragon riding. I'm very excited to see how they have to. Like, there's no way they don't, right? Like, this can't be one of the systems that die in the expansion.
I mean, you can Drakthir, same thing, right? You can Drakthir fly in like regular other parts.
Oh,
of
really?
Azeroth,
Okay.
So it's not like they don't have the basis of it implemented.
Oh yeah, you can use a soar anywhere, but I think the biggest problem they're running into is not necessarily just implementing dragon riding, but the fact that they have like 580 mounts or something in this game that are worthless. But these 4 are all you're ever going to use.
Yeah. Like even when they like, even when the like there's so far I've seen like the what do I call them, the explorers, the secret hunters, I guess, I don't know what the hell they're called, but that community, I've seen 4 mounts that you can unlock in the Dragon Isles, but you're not going to use them here. Why the fuck would you? They're not dragons. Like they don't have the dragon riding like moo. So like
I think
so like cool, you can get
think
them, but you're gonna use them only in Stormwind or something.
Absolutely. I think in general, though, like, just assuming they're going to add dragon riding to the rest of the world and going into the next expansion, a lot of the problem I hear mentioned are, like, animations.
Oh,
I think,
course.
for the most part, they can honestly kind of ignore the animations and sort of just let it look a little goofy, and enough people will be okay with that. That, like, yeah, if I'm on Invincible, and when it flaps its wings and goes forward, it looks kind of doofy, that's more or less fine.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Well, one, that's hilarious, and like there's gonna be some mount that looks totally stupid,
dude,
doing the dragon riding stuff, and I'm here for that.
No, that's great.
I don't think they need to make unique animations. Again, I'm not a developer. I don't know how hard this is. Maybe it's impossible to just apply dragon riding to the currently existing mounts.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, but like for some of them, for sure. Like you're saying, like the like, I mean, okay, right, like this second, think of any ground mount that has short legs. They look so goddamn funny when you're fast as fuck. It's the funniest thing on the planet watching like the turtle like go at like 200% move speed.
True.
It makes you so happy.
And also thinking about it, actually, something that makes me laugh is mounts that don't have wings at all that fly. Like the Priestess's Moon Saber from BFA. Like what that would look like doing dragon riding, where it's
That'd
just
be
like
great.
running in midair.
Yeah.
I'm here for the goofiness of it. But I could understand how that would really kill the immersion a lot of people have.
Oh, for sure. But like, fuck them. I don't know.
I mean, fuck them is a reasonable take.
Like, I don't know. I'm really excited. I like maybe this is just me wanting to do like tricks in Stormwind. Like maybe that's like maybe that's all this is.
I think a lot of my opinion on it is that I will accept most downsides if I get to keep the speed and the fun of it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine in 2 patches from now if they're like, to get your dragon more acclimated and to bond further with it, we have set up courses across Azeroth for you to go do. Back to Kalimdor, back to the Eastern Kingdoms, above Stormwind, down in Gone. Who cares? Like, get crazy. Like,
Yeah. No, that'd be fucking awesome. Like, I realize I'm the one that plays RuneScape or has played RuneScape aggressively before, or that aggressively before. But they introduced rooftop agility. So in the main cities, basically you just did like parkour in like the main cities to like gain experience in the agility skill. And like that was an amazing addition, because you got to see like stuff in different like just POVs. And because obviously I don't know, but obviously in RuneScape you can't fucking fly, so like you're never gonna ever see the roofs of anything. You know, like you're never gonna see them. So like that was really cool. So like and then back to Azeroth, to do all that stuff in the old world would be so damn cool. You know.
As for like a secret area or something, I definitely felt that way the first time someone was like, "Hey, are you getting Cataclysm?" I'm like, I don't know why. They're like, we can go to the Maelstrom. I'm like, well, the what?
The what now?
That thing in the thing in the middle of the map? That's a place? That's a place you can go? Apparently.
Imagine, holy shit. Okay, so next expansion. Here's my if I had a genie, I had a few wishes kind of thing. Give me obviously player housing, because I really fucking want that shit. Whether it just be guild halls or personal, either way, fucking give it to me. Just make it more customizable than garrisons. That's my only shtick. And then in these player-owned housings, or maybe like separate too somehow. I don't know how they want to fucking do it, how they even can do it. Excuse me. But make it so you can have like the Halo Forge for dragon riding courses.
I'm mad about what you just said, because I know we're not going to get it.
No, we're never getting that.
God, do I want that so bad.
Matt, the Forge. Like, people that don't play Halo at all, like, play the Forge. like.
I mean, people who play Mario Maker will get the same effect. Like, here, I'll help you. I'll help Blizzard pull it off. Blizzard, we would be doing the work for free for you. We would make the courses.
Exactly.
All you have to do is give us a reasonable amount of tools. We will sit there for days, for months, making and playing each other's courses to see who can get the best times, or see if you can screw with your friends. Like, haha, this one's near unbeatable.
Okay, so maybe Blizzard aren't the people we ask for it. If there's any add-on developer out there,
oh my god,
if you could make this, you would be a bajillionaire just from me. I would give you all of my money.
Dude, hold on. Okay, I don't know how much you guys know about it, but in Final Fantasy XIV with the player housing, there are people who make like their entire living being interior designers in a video game. What?
Sounds like the stories I used to hear about Second Life.
Like exactly.
That sounds like the thing people make up about video games, but isn't real.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally, like I mean, I could go on forever about 14 and how like they've revolutionized the game and or the genre, and completely have challenged Blizzard specifically into changing up their shit. Because like before 14 like popped off, maybe 10% of the WoW player base wanted player housing. Like, because we most of us have the trauma of garrisons, right? So like, oh, they're not gonna be able to do it. Like, we had garrisons, they tried. Like, we don't want that. No, like, fuck it. Like, don't worry about it. And then 14 popped off. Everyone's like having like parties in their houses. Like, people are getting paid. I don't know if this is legal, so maybe I'm not. So hopefully people maybe it doesn't get someone banned. But like I know people who are making real life money interior designing like their like fucking communities' houses. Like, what the fuck? Like, what reality are we in?
Love the ingenuity, though.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like, and that's what Blizzard could have. And those people, hey, spoiler, they stay sub the whole time, you fucks. Like, you want player retention? You want people to stay subbed to your game forever? You don't need to give us these 6 months, 12 months, like silly mounts or whatever it may be. Yeah, they're cool, whatever, I guess. I'm sub to them because, like, what am I do? Not play the game? I'm the fucking guild master. I'm always gonna play this damn game. Like, dude, you give us that, you give us the Forge, you give us player housing, you give us like, and you give fucking like 50, 60 developers like entire things. That's their whole job is to do this. I guarantee you, it'll pay off. Like, not a doubt in my mind.
Do you guys have a favorite zone yet in Dragonflight?
It's got to be Waking Shores. It's the first one, but I think it's also clearly the most fun to explore. Because Onaran Plains, it's plains, right? It's kind of flat.
It's the grand, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
But it's not my favorite, right? Like, there's not a ton to it. I really like the contrast between, like, the obsidian areas, but also, like, there's a clear difference between, like, the areas the black dragons lived in versus the I don't know, the big giant guys. I don't remember what their name is. It's hard to pronounce. But, like, the lava theme mixed with, like, the red dragon shrine area where there's all this ruby life water flowing. It's great. I like the Waking Shores a lot.
Brian's there a standout one for you?
I don't know. I think... I don't... I spend the most time in the Waking Shore just due to key farming. But I don't know if it's my favorite. I don't even know if I have a favorite, to be honest with you. Because, like, not every zone. But, like... So the shores, I don't know about the plains. I don't think the plains have one of what I'm thinking of. But Waking Shores and the Azure Span have like those like areas of the map that are kind of like that mysterious like danger area.
Mm-hmm.
And I like really like that. Like obviously it's not, the Citadel is not a fucking mystery. But the point is like it's filtered, huh? Question mark. It is full of elites. Like at first glance you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah, the Brackenhide Hollow, I think, does a lot better job of that, mostly because it's not just filled with people killing stuff constantly.
Yeah, exactly. But I really like that part, and like the Cobalt Assembly is like really interesting in that area because it's like its own like it could be its own zone. Like if you told me the Cobalt Assembly was like an island, like off of over there, I would have believed you if I knew it was there.
I'm a big fan of the Azure Span as well. It's got the timber wooded area, and it's got the big frozen area. It's kind of cool. Also, I'm just a sucker for Caligos in this particular expansion. He's just hanging out with his little walrus buddies, and like there's, all the quests are like, you want to go fishing?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's I don't know. It's so chill and laid back, and it's such a refreshing thing to not be like, yeah, hey, adventurer, the jailer, this ultimate being who lives in Mega Hell, is kind of threatening us. Did you want to collect 6 pebbles for me? Now it's just like, dude, just take a break from the crazy stuff you're doing with dragons. Just come fishing for a little bit. Or like, man, do you want to make some soup right now? I want to make some soup right now. I hope it doesn't turn into a big goopy slime monster. Like, it's pretty fun. I like the Azure Span a lot.
Yeah, I think I said it last time, but I love how alive the world is. And another like pocket that I want for them to kind of explore is that corner of the last zone, Thaldraszus, sure. The way you go like back in time, or you're in the future or some shit. Like just that like bit. I realized we had an entire expansion that we were in a different fucking timeline, and that wasn't very fun. I understand that, so I don't want that. But I'd like them to explore more with that area and that like concept for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'd be pretty cool. Were there any quests you guys did that kind of like drew you to a zone, or ones that you like, even world quests you find yourself going back and doing over and over? Anything that's like really memorable for you? Obviously, spoilers ahead if you're into doing all the questing.
I think everything with the little Bronze Dragonflight area, the fact that you go into the future where it's kind of post-apocalyptic, because like it's the future where the Primalists win, and you have to sort of get Chromie and the Infinite Dragon out, and then there's the joke past with like end time, but it's all Murlocs, or even earlier in the zone, big spoiler, because it is one of my favorite moments, because I thought my game crashed when it happened, but instead it was so good. Whenever you go back to your starting zone for your race, I extra loved it whenever I was on my Demon Hunter, because then it played the cinematic from Legion. That quest was phenomenal.
I'll say those two are it. Because like I'm like the worst person to ask about this. Like I skip every cutscene. I read no dialogue. Like, so with that being said, this kind of strengthens the point about how the world feels alive, even to me, who skips literally everything. Like the world still feels alive.
Fair enough.
But yeah, with that being said, the going back in time and going through that section with Deathwing and all that stuff from like the Murloc perspective was one of the I legitimately laughed. Like I never give 2/3 a fuck about the quest we're on. Like it's not like if it's like I don't remember a fun quest ever existing because it was always like kill 6 boars. The drop rate for some reason for the boar's left foot is not 100%. So you have to kill 500 boars. Like that's to me that's all questing was, you know, or like hey, I can see that NPC over there. Can you tell him I said what's up? That like
go over there. Get a pencil. What? Okay, come back over here. But you don't have anything to write on. Go over there, get a piece of paper, come back. Now make sure you staple the paper together. Okay, now write on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like those quests, like what the fuck? And I get like, and I'm not even upset that those quests exist. I'm upset that like that's to me, because I guess someone who's a filthy, you know, like lore skipper, that's all it ever felt like. But then because of that, because of those 2 quests that like brought us back to Murloc Deathwing era question mark ping, or like the starting zone thing, like those. Man, I could go on for another half an hour easy about just my experience in those 2 quests because that was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience.
Briefly, just to mention it, I loved like the gag at Blizzard's expense where they had the Heart of Azmerloth, like the Heart of Azeroth,
so
and
good.
it Titan forged almost every time.
Yep, to like varying degrees.
Yeah, apparently it's like based on your level, so like it's a little bit gamifiable. But I just loved that that moment. I think it was great. Just being able to make fun of yourself is a really big deal, and more importantly, being able to make fun of yourself and have it land. Because I'm sure we've all been there where we make a self-deprecating joke and someone's like, "Yeah, you do that," and it's like, "Well, now I just feel bad."
Yeah, exactly.
There was one quest I did that we haven't mentioned because obviously I loved going back to the starting zone temporarily. That was so fucking funny. I loved seeing the Heart of Azmerloth. I loved all those Murloc zone jokes, especially if you like zoom out on the map and like look at the actual names of the zone. Very good. But there was one quest in particular that I was like, they made this for me. It's down by the academy, and it is a quest where you hang out with legally distinct Yu-Gi-Oh players. there is someone whose dragon name is Yuma, and then whatever dragon type he is, like Yuma Dorma or something like that. And he fights someone whose dragon name starts with Seto, and they're playing Hearthstone together, and one of them starts cheating, and you watch him getting all kind of shenanigans, and it's just very fun. I feel like it was made for me. The only thing that would convince me that Blizzard is watching me from behind is if they were like, so this one's a reference to Bionicles. Then I would assume they're spying on me. But that was easily my favorite quest, was the random, unnecessary, but totally beloved Yu-Gi-Oh reference they put in.
That's great.
I mean, honestly, I think the questing, the zone design, they've been killing it so far. We're very clearly in the honeymoon phase of Dragonflight, but they have done a great job so far, and I'm only excited for what's to come. I'm dreading nothing.
Yeah.
Also, Ring of Blood is back.
Yeah, always Ring of Blood. This one is very friendly, which I have conflicting feelings about, honestly.
Yeah, it was like a challenge more than it was like, here's a bunch of guys that want to like actually kill you.
Yeah, and it was like, you can solo some of them. And that felt really weird. Because always, to me, it was always like, hey, you need, especially because expansion just dropped, right? You're like, yo, you need to get your friends together to kill this like set of stuff. But I mean, also that could be because like a lot of us like came into Dragonflight like geared out the asshole.
It might also help that you're just better than you used to be. You know, when we did this back in where was the first one? Nagrand?
Yeah, Nagrand in BC.
like we were just kind of little shitters. Like maybe you're just like the things you're soloing aren't necessarily like, well, they made it easier, but maybe you just know your class more inside and out, and you're playing some better talents, and you've obviously got better gear because we were all geared to the teeth leaving Shadowlands. So I don't know. Maybe you're just better than you think you are.
Yeah, I'm just a god. Lol.
Well, in all these new zones, they popped a lot of new dungeons in for us. Were there any dungeons that stood out to you guys as like, yeah, this one, I'm excited to run keys for this one, or are there other ones where you're like, I am so glad this is not on the season 1 rotation?
I think dungeons is actually the part that they've missed the hardest on. I think that there's room for improvement, so hopefully they can take some of the feedback and implement it. But I think that the philosophy of designing dungeons around feeling like I'm babysitting trash packs with pretty boring bosses isn't very fun. I have a lot less fun going into a dungeon and being feared for 8 seconds because I didn't know what a trash pack did. And then even when I do know what it does, there's 4 other casters in that mob. So I have to sit there and watch for this fear while I'm also getting pelted to death by stones or whatever is happening in the dungeon. That being said, I do think that Algathar Academy is the best dungeon so far. It also received a lot of changes throughout beta.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do like Algathar Academy. I think that Ruby Life Pools is pretty good. I think that Halls of Infusion is really bad currently in its current iteration. That one needs a lot of work.
It just feels like a slog. I feel like I'm in there forever.
Huh, interesting. I don't agree. Actually, I like all the dungeons.
Are there any that are like top of your list, like ones where you're actually excited if that ends up being your keystone, or I guess if they're not making it into a season 1 rotational, just one that you're like, quick to knock off the list of Mythic Zeros you're running for the week?
No, they're all like I don't have one. Yeah, which is rare for sure.
But I think it's good.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good problem.
It's a good problem to have.
Like I don't have a problem with like not knowing a thing and then getting punished for not knowing a thing because it's the second fucking week, right? So like that's like, to me that's fine. I wish some of the things were a little clearer for sure, but I think that's a lot of because it's like, wait, Ben, you said this is the 9th expansion?
Yeah, we're on expansion number 9.
Oh my god! So there's like a lot of those things. I'm sure it's like because the expansion, the game has been around for so long that they've had to just like use other insane adjectives and synonyms for stuff that we like didn't like. This is clearly a fear. Okay, why you called it like you renamed it? It's in Latin. Like how would I have known that? Like you go.
I was going to mention, I've run into a couple of things that look an awful lot like they're horrifying. Because I think there's one called Horrifying Shout.
Yeah.
It is not a fear.
Exactly.
It just does
what the
damage
fuck?
to you.
Yeah.
So I don't like that I can't intuit my way through these dungeons. Instead, I just need to already know what everything does and already have a plan. I've mentioned this before with you a lot, Brian. I personally like the improvisation aspect of PvE in this game, but it feels like, especially as the content gets harder, like higher TV level scaling or going into mythic difficulty and rating, that just becomes less and less viable as an option, just because the stuff's so deadly that you just die to it.
Yeah, of course, and that's fine. Like I think, you should be able to, like, go through a dungeon, like obviously at the base level, like. Rather, at the base level, the first couple weeks of the fucking expansion, where your gear isn't like you're insanely over gear or whatever, and feel like there's relative danger. Nothing's like that crazy, of course, because it's still a 0 after all. But like you should, like you said, you should be able to know that something does something just by the fucking name. Why is what's that movie you said? Horrifying Scream or something?
It's called Horrifying Shout, I believe.
Why isn't that a fear?
Yeah,
it's a terror.
And there's a I think it's in Halls of Infusion. I might be misremembering, but it's it might be Azure Vault. There's a frontal that a mob will turn towards a random player and cast it. It is a 1 second cast time, and it disorients you for 4 seconds.
Yes.
It can target the tank, And if the
Talking
tank
about
is
that stink
disoriented,
breath boy.
yeah, actually, it might be the stink breath guy. It can target the tank, and if the tank gets disoriented, he loses all aggro. So it feels really weird. Like you just have to be ready for it 100% of the time. Um, and I don't find that terribly fun. Like I could see how it's appealing, kind of being on the edge of your seat, but instead it feels frustrating.
I think if they made it like literally 0.5 seconds longer, it'd be fine.
I agree. Actually, if they made it longer, because I believe the mob is also unstunnable,
Yes.
but you can dodge the breath, right? It doesn't track you.
Yeah.
If they just made it a little bit longer and I felt like I had some more counterplay to it, because rotations in this game are really fucking hard. So
Yeah,
if
they're
I'm
complex as
focusing
fuck.
on if I'm focusing on my rotation and I have exactly 1 second to react to something that could easily kill me if there's other packs being pulled with it's like, well, cool, all right, I guess I'm disoriented. I'll see you guys in 4 seconds. Or if you're the tank, you're like, well, sorry, whoever was top DPS, because you're dead now.
Yeah, it's a wipe. Like straight up, especially later on, the difficulty gets higher. Yeah, but so if they just made it like, if they made it like a 2-second cast or 1.75 second cast, like,
and that's something I was mentioning about being hopeful. The dungeons that are going to be in M plus this rotation, that being Algathar Academy, Ruby Life Pools, Azure Vault, and the fourth one, I was so confident going into this. But they have received huge amounts of iteration throughout the beta cycle. And the 4 that aren't, namely Brackenite, Hollow, and Halls of Infusion, have not received this iteration. And it's pretty noticeable doing them on M0, the quality difference between what's been worked on the most and what hasn't been.
yeah, I'm excited. Like, the only thing I'm unexcited for is the fact that we're getting like time walking is the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
The old dungeons.
Yeah.
Actually, I see. I'm the opposite here. There for you. Well, okay. On the surface, I'm at the opposite. I really like that they're bringing back old dungeons. I think Season 4 of Shadowlands, where they brought in the 4 old dungeons, for the most part, was a really, really well done implementation of them. I think that for the first season, we probably should have just gotten the 8 Dragonflight dungeons.
Yeah.
But I do like that we're getting to reuse some of this old content. And like Temple of the Jade Serpent, right, has been sitting around for 10 years doing nothing. And now they've given it some reworks. They like the first boss especially was really bad. If anyone's ever done that challenge mode or anything, that's not a very fun first boss. But
Yeah.
they've given it some reworks, so it's actually a boss that feels modern. And the rest of it is pretty good. It's a fun dungeon. When I was doing them on beta, I enjoyed them extensively. Or Halls of Valor, for example. That was always a meme key in Legion, because the bosses were so hard in that dungeon. They would one-shot you so much faster than any other boss at the same key level. They've received huge nerfs, and they took out a lot of the obnoxious trash. The key's a lot shorter. I think overall they're doing really well with implementing old dungeons into the M+ rotation.
Yeah, I think they're definitely doing a good job. I just wish it wasn't like the first tier or first season.
I can 100% agree with that. I think the first tier should have been all 8 Dragonflight dungeons.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's the only part that bothered me. Everything else about Dragonflight, again, excluding the bugs, and excluding from looking at it like a officer or a raid leader perspective, it's like flawless. Like I would okay. Besides the bugs, besides all that other like very specific PoE stuff, like 9 out of 10 on this launch.
I think I'm in agreement. It's not perfect.
No.
It's really close to perfect though.
It's very close. I mean, even with like the bugs, it's still like an 8 out of 10. Like, cause like, I mean, for us specifically, we're not like going for world first, any of that crap. So like the whole like waiting, we're spending half an hour waiting like for the Alliance boat to show up. Like, while it was like kind of irritating, but honestly, I didn't like hate it. Like waiting for it, like with everyone, like it was kind of a huge meme. And then like watching the Twitch streams for the drops, like while doing it, watching the horde like get on the boat and stuff was like, wait, what the fuck? And like so like that, like, you know, and so everyone in the Alliance harbor or the dock is like freaking out, and like, yeah, the GM like flying by in his Drake, like that, this is all a good story, and like that's like
I could definitely see a lot of people walking away from that and going, "This game sucks." That was
oh, for
bullshit. I can't
sure.
believe this doesn't work. But for us, I had a great time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good time for us specifically. And like and like dude, whereas like people take like everyone gets like something different from video games or experiences or yada yada blah blah, right? What I treasure the most are the memories. So like yeah, sure,
Yeah.
like at the time, like it was, you know, like yeah, again, it was kind of irritating, whatever, like so, you know, be as it may. That's a wonderful memory, and I'm more than likely I'm never gonna forget that. And or you know whatever, like you come at me in 10 years, like yo, remember Dragonflight launch? Like kind of like remind me what happened. Then you like trigger a memory, like dude, that was amazing. Like and then you know that just you know brings like nostalgia and shit. That's great.
I agree 100%. The memories that I shared with you guys in this expansion specifically will be with me the rest of my life. Like, absolutely.
Honestly, I think that this is WoW, right? That this is the World of Warcraft. The things going on around us are the important thing, not us being the giga hero of the universe or whatever we're supposed to be. That's to go all the way back to things I'm glad to see gone. That's a major thing I'm glad to see gone. I'm glad that other things are important besides me.
Yeah, I like that. This is the first expansion where I fished. Like I've never ever wanted to fish before, and
Yeah, there's so much. I've tried so many new things, and honestly, I said it before. I'm not dreading anything. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to more things that this game is going to make me do that I've ignored in the past. And I
yes,
think that Dragonflight is looking really, really good.
yeah. Like I've already started leveling an alt. Like for
Yeah,
me,
you never do that.
no, I never do that. That's that's a tier 2 at the earliest thing. But like gearing is so fast, or at least for PvP, gearing is so fast that like I'm level like 63 or 64 already, and I only spent like I think like 5 hours, and I was like actually going through like me the lore skipper. I was actually like reading through some of the quests. I was like watching cutscenes, stuff like that. It's only been like 4 hours, and I'm fucking almost a third of the way there. Like, that's pretty good.
Do you guys have any other concluding thoughts for our initial experience with Dragonflight? Anything you feel like you need to mention that we didn't have a category for or didn't have a chance to bring up before?
This is my last thing. I'm not going to go too deep into it. Stop paying attention to what you think the best class is going to be right
Oh my
now.
God, seriously.
You have time. Level up a new class, especially right now. You know, first couple weeks of the raid, you'll be fine. If you really feel like you need your class is being held back by poor balance, reroll. Dragonflight is super great for it. Just reroll. You'll be fine.
Yeah, if you're not trying to get cutting edge, world first, mythic rating, pushing plus 30s and mythic plus, like play what you like. Play what you think is going to be fun. You're going to have way more fun and do more damage on the thing you're having fun with than the flavor of the month class that you rolled because some chart somewhere said it was S tier.
Yeah, your favorite content creator doesn't know everything. And even if they did, spoiler, they're not going to tell you everything.
Yeah, for real. But in any case, I think that Dragonflight is going to be great. I look forward to playing it as soon as we're done here. I'm going to go and farm some rares because it's fun.
Yeah, I've been made more excited to play more as we're sitting here talking about it.
Yeah, same.
I don't really have any concluding thoughts, but I am gonna just so everyone knows I'm gonna start a GoFundMe for about $905. The $900 is for the new Alex Straza statue they're making.
Say what
and
now?
then I just need the new Alex Straza statue. It's just 900. It's just a little $900. The other $5 not for tax. I do need to buy a really big jar. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We hope you had fun with this particular episode of A Seriously Casual Perspective. I have been Matt. This has been Brian. This has been Ben. If you want to check us out on social media, links will be where they usually are.
Bye.
Bye.